Long before Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Extreme Railways was even thought about, Chris Tarrant was busy in many other fields. This amazing interview from 1990 reveals what a wide and varied career the talented presenter already had achieved by then. It also gives an indication of what lay ahead.
Do you ever dream about becoming famous?
Nah, not at all. I mean, it never crossed my mind. I think, I don't know, I've just always drifted into it. I've never had like a career plan. I mean, a lot of people you talk to now, they sort of say, well, 43 and you ought to have your own chat show at 45 and all this stuff. I've never ever thought like that. And I think because I've always had the attitude that I just sort of turn up and do it and hope it's quite successful. I mean, I work hard at what I do and I'm quite professional about it. But in the end, if it all stopped tomorrow, I really wouldn't give a monkeys. You know, I've always been like that. And I think that actually is probably one of the reasons why I've managed to survive at one level or another for a long time, you know, because there's a lot of political nonsense in television and radio where executives, for no reason and they've got nothing better to do, try to give people who aren't that secure a very hard time. And because I've always sort of said, well, you know, if you don't like it, you can always sack me. I think because of that, I've always sort of carried on. I've been, my contracts have always been renewed, and there's no point trying to give Tarrant a hard time because he doesn't seem to care much anyway. And I think I've always had that sort of attitude to it. I've really never had any real ambition. I like to be successful, I like the money and stuff, but basically, so what? If it all ends tomorrow, I'm going fishing, you know.
This image of yours, this pop star image, means that a lot of people are going to hang on to your every word and be influenced by you. Does this make you feel responsible in any way? Or?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's part and parcel. I mean, I've always thought that. I mean, like the very first time I was on the television, I've been on about for a minute, you know, and just did some sort of fairly bland report about something in the Midlands, and people sort of wrote in and wanted my photograph, and I think this is stupid. I mean, I think you could have a stuffed bear on the television, have its own programme, and within about 3 days it would start getting fan mail. It's very unreal. I mean, all that stuff. Do you remember when Andrew Gardner and what's the other name, the big tall one, Gordon Honeycomb left ITN, and they both did sort of books about what it was like being a newsreader. I mean, some of the Honeycomb stuff was, I mean, letters from women he used to get. Like every time I say hello, good evening, there was some woman down in Cobham who used to think, I know that means secretly I want to have sex with you and all this stuff. And the way you wiggle your eyebrow is definitely a secret sign for me, Gordon. All this nonsense.
Do you ever feel divorced from reality?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I've become increasingly weird. I don't think so. I mean, I think you have to see it as just a piece of nonsense, and it really is not that important. It's just a job, for God's sake.
I suppose the vast majority of people never bother. It's the same ones over again who phone in and complain.
Oh yeah. Usually, yes. There is always a hardcore of people who complain. I mean, doing. I took over this Clive James thing, the Tarrant on television stuff. I mean, we had a lot of complaints about that. And what you're actually saying, I mean, quite clearly in a link is often, I mean, there was some stuff from Finland. I mean, there was a sketch about child molesting. Now, there is no joke in the world that is funny about child molesting. We made it patently clear in the link, we did not think this is at all funny. Can you believe that they ever run this on television? Can you believe they actually entered this clip for the Montreux Film Festival as Finn's sort of, their hopeful sort of prize-winning thing for that year, 1988 or whatever. Yeah. And even so, people rang up and said, how dare Chris Tarrant condone child molesting? You think, don't you listen at all?
Back to your school days again. If you were another member of your class at school, how do you think you would describe the young Chris Tarrant?
I was horrible. I was a real sort of, I was like a smarty pants, and I was like a loudmouth, and I mean, I definitely wasn't the one who had his head stuffed down the bog every day. I mean, I was the one who was actually doing the stuffing. I don't think I was a bully, but I was very much like a sort of a leader, if you like. I always had like a group of mates. I was 5'11 3/4 then. I was only 4. No, I was just. I mean, I think I discovered early on that making like your mates laugh was actually a key to being popular. I mean, I think that's the thing that kids learn quite quickly.
Well, I think most kids get a kick out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to sort of muck about, and I was very, I was always in trouble. I mean, I was thrashed for months of my life. There was one master, I mean, I spent 4 years at this one school I went to, and I mean, I never saw his face. All I ever saw was his shoes, because he used to say, bend over and wait in my study. I just used to see this pair of shoes come in, beat hell out of me for about a minute, and then off it would go again, this pair of shoes, and saying, get up when you're ready, and all this. I never saw the bloke, I just saw this pair of shoes.
I know you love fishing. Have you any other hobbies?
I still
Anything
fish. I still fish. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with fishing. I don't know why. It's just something I've always done since I was about 4. And I've now got a house like that backs onto the river, so it's literally sort of go down the lawn and chuck it out. You know.
Wonderful.
It's been a great leveler over the years. I mean, through sort of difficult times and problems with my love life or whatever, there's always been fishing to fall back on. And when I'm very busy, I still make time. I mean, I do stupid things like. I mean, even now I do a breakfast show. I actually get up at 5 o'clock, like every day. I've done it for 3 years or whatever. I still, in the summer months when it's light at like 2:45, actually get up and go fishing before I leave the house to go work. I mean, it's a sort of madness, but it keeps me vaguely. You just have to feel there's something else in the world apart from going to work.
Yes.
I think most guys, most people, guys, ladies, whatever. I mean, they need something that they're balmy about, and it doesn't matter whether it's train spotting, collecting butterflies, whatever. You know, people need. I mean, I know people who sort of get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to see if their chrysanthemums are coming up and pour oil on them down little peas or sort of pea shooter things. You know, it doesn't matter. I think men particularly need somewhere where they get away from the house and the kids, whatever, and they go off and they be ever so slightly, lunatic in a corner of their garden or 50 miles away in a fishing pond or whatever. You just need something that isn't work.
What did you do between leaving school and embarking on this career of show business, dare we say?
I drove trucks for about. I did all the sort of odd jobs that you do. I was a night security man for a while. That was wonderful. But
You didn't do college and university?
I did university. Certainly did. Got my degree.
Oh, well, there you go. You see, a lot of people
3
don't
years. A
realise
lot of
that.
people don't care.
Yeah.
I did 3 years of English literature. I mean, I did Anglo-Saxon, which is, been so useful to me in later life. So that's been a wonderful, wonderful backbone. But-
Anyone studying
Oh, it's very, very hard. It was just nonsense. I don't know why I did it. It was part of the course. So I did that, and then I drifted into various odd jobs. I drove trucks. Trucks was good actually, because trucks I actually really enjoyed like the solitude of it.
Was this before HGV came in?
Yeah, I didn't have a license. It either was, or the bloke I worked for didn't tell me about it, because he just used to pay me in like a brown envelope every Friday, and that was it. And I used to drive I used to load big Arctics. I used to load trucks up with lawnmowers.
Yeah.
I was built like a gorilla in those. I used to sort of load all this stuff in like every morning about 6 o'clock, fill up the lorry, and then drive up to Liverpool, Sheffield, Manchester, wherever, and come back again. It was a great life, and you'd have certain stops. Like there were brilliant places where you could get your bacon sandwich or whatever. It was a great life. And then I did a couple of years. How long did I do it? Just felt like forever. I taught in the East End of London. No, it was for about a year, 14 months, something like that, in New Cross, which is it's like sort of Chicago. It's really
What
awful.
did you teach?
I taught. Basically, I was doing English, but seeing I was about the only English-speaking member of the class, it was quite difficult. It was very violent. It was very difficult. Being 6'2" definitely helped. It was all boys. It's what they call the Easter leavers,
And
which
this
is
20 years ago, wasn't
it
it?
wasn't that long, Nigel. God, it probably was, wasn't it? It probably was 20 years ago. It was a while back. Yeah, and it was just a mixture of a lot of skinheads, a lot of Millwall supporters, a lot of Turks, a lot of West Indian kids, Indians, whatever. That wasn't the problem. It was just the whole background. These kids had finished with education. They were the Easter leavers, which meant because of peculiarities of their birth date, they could leave school a term before anybody else. And they're all like fairly low educationally anyway. So it was just like dreadful.
Going back to Tiswas, how much of that show was ad-libbed?
It was very ad lib off a basic pattern, but it was very tight. We have all these things to do, like commercial breaks. They have to be hit exactly by the second, and all that stuff, And certain, you couldn't just sort of amble in at 9 and muck about till 12 with a few buckets and go home. The success of it was that it did actually look like that. But
Is it true, Chris, that once someone tipped a pint of beer over your head in a pub?
oh yeah, that used to happen quite a lot. I must admit that was one. Tiswas was great fun, and it was very successful. And I suppose if I'm honest, it built my career. It built Lenny Henry's. A lot of people, Jim Davis and a load of people sort of came out of that who really weren't that well known at all before it started. Carol Dees, people like that, Sally James. But yes, that was the plus side. I think there was a great feeling of sort of camaraderie between us all, because we used to go on tour and we lived in each other's sort of pockets and houses for 7 years of our lives. We did about 300 odd shows, so there was a great rap between us all.
Yeah.
But socially it was disastrous, because you'd go out and people would go, "Whoa, Tarrant, it's Tiswas torrential time," and throw a bucket of water over your head.
So is that actually the pint of
And
beer?
they say, "But I thought you liked it. You do it every Saturday." I do it every Saturday morning. It's my job and I get paid. Not now. It's like 11 o'clock at night in my one and only best suit or whatever. I remember a woman in. We were in Brighton. We used to do a sort of stage version as well. We were down in Brighton with all of us, and we had a meal about midnight or something with Sally and everybody. And this woman, terribly nicely spoken woman, came up to Sally James, who was just sitting there with all her frock sort of done up, looking sort of ready for going out or whatever. And this woman said, "I'm most awfully sorry. You don't mind if I pour the ice bucket over your head, do you?" And Sally's going, like, no, apparently I don't. This woman just poured a bucket of ice, went and sat down at a table. Yeah. I thought, that's what they do, darling. No, we don't. Yeah, I mean, that was a minus. Oh, the great thing about it now is that, I mean, people still come up to me and they talk about it now as if like, "Oh, Tiswas, it was brilliant. Like everyone, it was, classic." It actually wasn't at all. I mean, it was live. I say we did 7 years. I mean, 300 odd shows we did in the end. A lot of it was absolutely awful. I mean, just rubbish went out, just drivel. I mean, I used to produce it and I come off some mornings going, "Oh my God, that sketch," and it was just, because it was live, you got a sort of knock-on effect some mornings where one thing went wrong and it just all went wrong for like 3 solid hours.
The ratings, did it? I mean,
the ratings were very high and all that, but I think there's that thing where like you look back now and like there were no bad Monty Python shows, there were no bad 9 o'clock newses, and there were some desperately thin Pythons and some terrible 9 o'clock newses, and Tiswas has become like that. It's become a legend of excellence, which it wasn't at all actually. It was like, occasionally there were classic bits, a lot
It'll
of rubbish.
never be forgotten.
No, it's great fun.
Going back a bit further before Tiswas, I know that you were doing a lot of interviews with ATV in Birmingham. I remember seeing you interviewing someone at the top of a church spire.
I started off with my suit. I mean, I tried to be like every ITN reporter you've ever seen. Chris Tarrant, ATN. And it was just, I mean, I could never remember who I was talking to. Or actually, I don't think I cared much either. I mean, it was all very heavy councillors outside the gates of Longbridge car factory or whatever. It was always that. I did about a month of that, and I was just not very good at all. I genuinely wasn't, that fussed about what I was doing anyway. And they sort of, they just sort of slowly they found that with lighter subjects, I mean, I was sort of more relaxed and I giggled more and I enjoyed it and I ad-libbed more or whatever. And I mean, slowly, I mean, basically, within about 3 months, I mean, I just used to interview lunatics, and every day they would find some complete headbanger and wheel him in, and I would talk to him. I mean, I had people who ate live goldfish. People who balanced upside down on their head while pouring beer down their trouser. Like, you try and do that. I mean, someone said, "I remember this guy now." I had a guy called the world champion nose, egg and water jumper. This guy came in and just covered the studio in rubbish. I mean, all this stuff. I like you saying, I had to go up to the top of a church steeple down in Herefordshire, which is actually very frightening. I mean, really, sort of, because the ladder went out like that. To kiss the golden cockerel on the top or something with a mad vicar. I mean, it's all that stuff. It was good fun. I enjoyed it.
What about your own sense of humour, Chris?
I don't know.
What about Monty Python? Is that your humour?
Yeah, Python was brilliant. I mean, Python achieved so much for humour in this country. Python is excellent. If you see, because I've now spent the last year looking at so much foreign television and foreign comedy, like sort of particularly Scandinavian stuff or whatever, which this is a very funny joke from Sweden, and you're thinking, oh God, a lot of it goes on forever. And the great Python thing that I think created an enormous sort of plus for British television, which we didn't really appreciate at the time, was that they got into like very short sketches, tags, if it wasn't going anywhere, get the hell out of it, sorry, boring and all. You remember all that stuff? And they just got into something else. Yeah, the Swedes sort of, who haven't had Python, sort of go on forever. Yeah. And the Norwegians, and it's been a great sort of discipline for British humour there. Stuff now, I mean, Blackadder and things makes me howl. I mean, it's so well written, that stuff. I mean, it's beautifully written. Very, very funny.
Have the public taken to this new show of yours, Tarrant on TV?
Successful.
It's going well, isn't it?
I mean, big ratings. It's always, but it's not me being clever. I mean, I've inherited. I mean, when they rang me about 6-7 months ago and said, would I be interested? I was saying, I'd love to do it. I mean, a lot of things come through, and like, there's game shows, and you think, I'm not too keen, whatever. But I mean, that's just always been one of the few programs that I actually bother to rush home and actually watch or videotape or whatever. I mean, Clive James. It was Dennis Norden originally, then it was Clive, then Keith Floyd did a year. And I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I just love going and seeing the stuff, so I'd probably look at about an hour per show, and then we cut it down to about half an hour. But I mean, some guys have been like, researching into that hour for months, going through a load of other stuff. Oh, it's great fun. I really enjoy it.
Chris, you're undoubtedly one of that small band of show business personalities who, no matter how old they get, are still closely associated with the younger generation. Do you like the music you play on your Capital Radio show?
I mean, I have to say, you do get into it. I mean, I find now that a lot of it is very bright for sort of driving into town stuff, although in actual fact you probably wouldn't go home and put your Kylie Minogue album on as soon as you go home. I mean, I still play things like Dire Straits to myself and White Snake or whatever. I mean, it's a top 40 station. I mean, it's the most successful commercial radio station in Europe. They made £15 million last year, this company. How can you believe it?
The taxman isn't watching.
15 million quid! It's very successful. I mean, American format radio is very much like that now. I mean, it's like the top 40 stations in the morning, breakfast shows and whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm 43 years old. I mean, there must be a point at which I think it's probably the audience think as well. Like, how much longer this man go on playing? Jason Donovan, for God's sake. We play a lot of other stuff as well.
Simon Bates plays.
He's 107 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is a balance. I mean, I think if I just played like non-stop charts and didn't play, you know, a mixture of oldies and Beatles and McCartney and Dire Straits and stuff, it would
You
get fairly
enjoy the
intense.
oldies more.
Yeah.
Do you like this rapping stuff? And
Some of it.
Really?
I do actually, yeah, some of it. Quite.
amazes me.
Well, yeah, because I play so much of this sort of stuff. I mean, I'm much more musically aware now than probably I was 5 years ago. I mean, I only became a disc jockey about 5 years ago. I'd never done radio in my life. I just ambled into it.
It worked.
Yeah, it seems to have done. I mean, I think because I've done it, most people do sort of radio radio first. Most people do radio first and then hope to get on telly. I mean, I've done telly for like, I don't know, 10 or 12 years before I'd ever been near a radio studio in my life, you know. And I think because of that, you appreciate it more. I mean, I much prefer radio. It's much more fun.
A lot of people have reported you as saying that you really hate discos. Now, I know you used to go into discos a lot in your younger days. Why is this aversion now to them?
Discos. I mean, the only time I go to discos now is when somebody's paying me, basically, and I avoid them like the plague. I mean, I could be out doing the. I mean, if you're supposed to be a disc jockey, which apparently at this ridiculous age I am, I mean, you're supposed to go out every night and say, "Hi, good evening, Bexley. Here we all are," and put records on for an hour and go home with like $2,000 in your pocket. I mean, I just don't ever want to do that stuff.
No.
There's also I mean, London discos are full of real pose till they close jobs. Some of these people, I mean, and there's like a real list of celebrities who go to every disco, you know, are seen at everything every night. I don't want to do all that stuff.
What sort of things get your adrenaline flowing now, Chris?
I don't know, working, I suppose, diving around, fishing, seeing my missus, whatever, seeing my kids. I mean, I've got a new baby that's real lease of life. That was brilliant. I've really enjoyed like being a daddy again. You know, it's been like 8 years between. I mean, that's brilliant. I love all that.
How old's your baby now?
18 months.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. I mean,
Runs
it's
quickly,
excellent.
that.
Yeah, excellent.
Chris, is there a serious side to you? I mean, we've joked and laughed, but do you have any strong political
No, not at all.
ideas?
No, not at all. I just find the whole area of politics full of so much, you know, wickedness and deceit and hypocrisy. No, I mean, I haven't voted for 3 elections now, and I'm not sure. Firstly, where I live, there's no point anyway. Tory, safe seat, 250,000 majority last election. No point even turning up to the poll booth. I'm just not a political animal. I do find them very irritating, and I find a lot of their television mannerisms and whatever just a pain, quite honestly. I'm just not interested. I think we are getting into a stage where, with people like McCartney and Sting and people, I mean, everybody is becoming more aware of the environment. But that's not politics as such. I mean, it's affected by international politics. And I'm more aware of, like, you know, sort of green issues and things. And I do applaud a lot of that. But the basic day-to-day stuff about, you know, rate capping and poll tax and whether or not Thatcher's in out, I couldn't give a monkey's quite honestly. Couldn't care less.
And what about ambitions for the future? How do you see the 1990s?
No idea. What, my own personal 90s?
Yeah.
I'll see any day now, around the corner. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I said to you before, I mean, I've never been ambitious. I like to do what I do well. I enjoy being successful at what I do. And I've always had. People will say, "Oh, you sound as if you're having a lot of fun." I mean, I actually do enjoy it. I think the best things I've ever done have always been things I've enjoyed doing enormously anyway. So that comes out of it. I think that actually makes the thing more successful because it sounds like fun and it is fun. I mean, Tiswas was like it, and lots of things I've done since have been like it. But I mean, certainly, no way I'm thinking, well, in 3 years' time, I'd like to have a chat show. I'd like to do this. I've no interest, quite honestly. I mean, whatever turns up, and if it's nice and I want to do it, I'd do it.
Chris, I don't know how to ask you this because I know he's getting on now. Is he still with us, your grandfather? Is he?
He's 96.
He's still alive.
Oh, he's amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, he's amazing. I mean, he's. I don't know. I mean, they all say he's terribly like me, which you ever meet him, I don't know. He's extraordinary. Yeah, he's 96 years old. He got married again when he was 86. Now, him and my. I mean, you won't mind me telling the story. Him and my granny were married for 64 years, something like that. And they used to fight like cat and dog. I mean, all my life as a kid, you were used to Granny literally chasing great big 6'4" Grandad round the house with a cricket bat and screaming at him. And when she died, it was like, I mean, they hardly spoke. I remember when, after their anniversary is at the age of 60, the silver diamond, whatever. About 3 months later, it was a big family thing, and we all sort of went along. And I mean, they hardly spoke to each other on the anniversary day. You know, they were sort of more or less sulking. But I remember about 3 months later, I was at my dad's house, and the phone rang one night, and Grandad. Now, bear in mind, they've been married now 60 odd years, and Grandad sort of saying, "What?" You know, my dad saying, "What?" And he says, "That's it. I'm leaving her. I'm coming to live with you. We're incompatible." He said, "Incompatible? Been married for 61 years." And put the phone down. Grandad had packed his bags. But when Granny died, I mean, he was distraught. He was terribly upset. You know, and I mean, he really was broken. And then you thought, oh, you know, he's going to just pine away and fade away, as you know, old couples often do when one goes or whatever. And he rang up about 7 months later. He said, I need your blessing, boy. And I'm saying, like, why I'm the family moral arbiter, I don't know. And I'm saying, what's that for, Grandad? He said, I'm thinking of getting married. And I'm saying, Grandad, you're 86. Well, I know. And what do you think? And once it sort of, the penny dropped, I said, I think it's brilliant, it's great, whatever. And he says, it's a lot, not as simple as that, a lot more complicated. He says, she's a much younger woman. And I'm saying, it's like some 17-year-old bird from the sweet shop is trying to take his fortune or whatever. And I said, how young, Grandad? And he said, 74.
Yeah,
74.
Young for him. Yeah.
I tell you what, it's given him a new lease of life. I mean, he's
96
He's 96
and
years
does he still
old.
get about?
Yeah. He's still putting it about.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He's amazing.
Well, we're making him famous. Though.
Yeah, I think he's going to outlive us all.
That's wonderful. Chris, what else can I say? What a lovely. What
You can
a
say
lovely
things like,
thing to end
thank
on.
you, Chris, it's been marvellous.
Yes, thank you for letting us intrude into your private world. Just let's hope your success continues and wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you, I've enjoyed it.